Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast, where we drink and talk about movies from 2007.
The fourth dimension will collapse upon itself, you stupid bitch.
Shut up, I'm a man and I know what's good for me.
Bountiful penis. Amen.
Boy, my ass is sore.
You can get pink eye from farting in a pillow?
Yeah, but you gotta be bare-assed.
I'm gonna invent a toothbrush for your butthole.
It does the trick.
Paddington Bear.
He's a homewrecker?
Yeah, he wrecks homes.
You are a murderer of love.
I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Welcome back to another episode of I Drink Your Podcast. With me today is Emily.
Hi, everyone.
And back with us, finally, is Wesley. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm fantastic.
That's great to hear.
It's so awesome to have you back.
Yeah.
Woo. Woohoo.
So, Wesley, why don't you tell us what your last several months have been like for you?
Well, let me tell you, if you need hospital recommendations, I've got the lowdown on where to get the best popsicles.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've been kind of in and out of hospital for the past couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, because it's a really complicated and roller coaster ride, but basically I had to get a liver transplant. I was pretty lucky to get one pretty quick, but it was because it was so severe that they were like, if you don't get this within the next week, you might not make it. So pretty intense. And of course, I wasn't lucky enough to not have any other symptoms or other things going on. So on top of liver transplant, there's about 3 or 4 other things that happened while I was in the hospital that kept me there longer. But I am home recovering now and trying to learn how to walk upstairs. Like my legs forgot how to do that. So we don't need to get too far into that because that's fun, but that's where I've been.
Yay.
How about you guys?
Well, we've been kind of just sitting around worried about you. That's what we've been doing for the last
Just
several months as well.
Thumbs, waiting around for you to learn how to use your legs again.
I don't know which sounds worse.
I think they're both bad, but I think you had it much worse than we did.
I think you had it much worse, Wes.
Okay. I have the scar to prove it.
Yeah. So before we get started with the movie today, what is in your glass this Sunday morning?
The only thing that you should be drinking for Hot Rod. I'm drinking some goddamn green tea.
And are you going to continue to do that all day?
I'm going to do that all day because I'm fucking pumped. Wesley's back.
Gonna bring the devil out of you.
Wesley, you got some water this morning?
I'm actually drinking Gatorade because electrolytes.
Yeah. Awesome.
To help you do all those stunts up and down the stairs.
It's what plants crave.
Well, I went with the other obvious hot rod drink, and I can understand why Emily wouldn't want to go alcohol at 9 a.m. on a Sunday, but I went with a flaming Dr. Pepper.
Oh, God, no.
Which is a beer with rum, and then you drop it in while it's on fire, and it's got a little bit of amaretto in it, too. So, bombs away.
You idiot man. Are you going to
Sully.
drink the whole thing? Holy shit. Stop it. Stop it. Oh my God. What the fuck?
Boom! That's the flavor.
Sully, you chode. I owe you a shot in the nuts.
That did not really taste like Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, I don't
You
know
didn't
why.
light it on fire.
Oh, that's what releases the flavor, yeah.
Sorry, spoilers.
Well, Wesley, what have you been watching recently?
Since I am recovering, have my saint of a mother here staying with me and kind of being my caretaker. And we just started the other night rewatching Lost.
Mm-hmm.
And we are already done with the first season. And it was like a week maybe that we've been watching it. So we've been cranking through them. But yeah, almost done with season 1. It's probably been, maybe a decade since I've actually watched it. and I've been talking about it all the time. I know Ben and I have said to each other multiple times, it feels about time to rewatch Lost.
Yep.
So we're actually doing it, and man, is that first season so good.
Yeah.
One of these days, maybe I'll watch it.
You definitely need to.
It's a commitment.
But it's worth it. Wesley, as you're rewatching it, are you finding yourself liking it more than when you first watched it?
That's a good question. No.
Okay.
It's about the same. I really liked it the first time, so I mean, it's not like it was hard for me to get into, and now it still holds up, I guess.
Yeah.
There's some questionable stuff from 2005, but
yeah, there's going to be anytime you look back that far. But I was more thinking like that show was so built on mystery. Like now that you know kind of where they went or didn't go with some of these mysteries, like does that change how you're watching it?
I don't think they've really tapped into any of the ones that were like big that they didn't answer yet.
Okay.
So I think maybe once those come around, because season 1 was so good because you just didn't know what to expect. And so by the later seasons, you knew what to expect, and then they would do something to you, like drop a hint the way that they would in the first couple seasons that did pay off. And then that's when it got disappointing, when it's like, well, you used to tell me.
Yeah.
But now you're just leaving me hanging. So maybe we'll see after the next couple. But no, I've been really enjoying rewatching it and seeing things happen, like knowing people are going to die, how they're going to die. When they find this thing, it makes you remember all the other things that are going to happen with that.
Wait, people die in Lost? I thought they just got lost.
You can get lost and die. Anyway, Lost.
Yeah.
Lost.
I don't know.
The best theme song in the history of TV.
Wait, seriously?
They don't say Lost. It's just a tone. Well, Emily, have you watched anything?
Well, not really, because this week has been just like a giant shit show for me of trying to get ready to be gone for 2 days for school, because I was in a wedding on a Thursday, which was fantastic and wonderful and amazing. But I basically just like worked and cleaned my house and didn't watch TV because I was constantly doing work things. But I did last night and the night before. I've been watching some videos of my favorite YouTuber, Jenny Nicholson. She is fucking fantastic. Y'all would love to watch some of her things, but she has like an hour and a half rant about how Dear Evan Hansen, the movie and musical, just suck. And it's really fucking funny. Like everything she does is hilarious, but it's also well researched and has really good points. And so I've been definitely watching some of her the last couple days, as well as the OC. I'm still working through that.
Yeah. I mean, the OC probably has the same issues as Lost does. Like, does the OC have some stuff that where you're like, oh, like it's 15 years later, that's kind of cringy?
Seth Cohen is just really cringy, but I think it's done in a way where that you're supposed to feel uncomfortable around him because he's such an idiot, and like just some of the stuff that he says is super sexist and homophobic. But it's done in a way where like the reactions that Ryan is giving is like that should be the audience's reaction to what Seth is saying.
Sure.
But it also has the worst opening song in the history of openings. So Lost sounds like the greatest one. The OC has the worst.
You don't like California?
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't it California?
Oh my God, it's so fucking terrible. It's so fucking terrible. I hate it so much.
Isn't Jason Schwartzman in that band?
Yeah, he's the drummer for that band, Emily. Did you know that?
So bad. I don't care. It's so bad.
California.
It's so whiny. It's so awful. I hate it so much. Just give me the Veronica Mars opening instead.
Yeah, but whiny white people is what the OC is about.
Ugh. Doesn't matter. I don't need to hear that all the time.
Okay, well, you are choosing to watch that show.
Fair.
Is there not the skip the intro option?
There is, but every time I skip it, it leaves the last like 20 seconds of it. So all I get is California. It's terrible. Because I was in a wedding, I kind of lost my voice. So high noises aren't working for me.
I've been mostly still watching horror movies with my daughter. We watched Poltergeist this week. We're trying to find movies that are like appropriate for 10, 11-year-olds because she likes scary things, but I also don't want her to have nightmares. So Poltergeist was the next choice that we had. She liked it for the most part. I mean, it's got a lot of that 80s camp to it, so she wasn't really into that part of it, but she liked the scarier aspects of it. And I completely forgot about the scene where the guy's face melts off, but thank God that was done with such clear prosthetics and fake makeup that she was able to just be like, oh yeah, like, because we watched Face Off together, the sci-fi show about movie makeup. So she knows all about that side of movie making. So she's able to watch that.
I thought for sure you were talking about the John Travolta, Nicolas Cage vehicle.
Oh, she loves that movie, yeah.
Because there is a face that comes off and it's very makeup-y.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. Does the face look fake when they take it off?
They peel the skin off the head.
Wait, there's a legit movie where someone's face comes off called
John
Face
Travolta
Off.
and Nicolas Cage.
They swap faces,
change
Emily.
faces.
You need to see
What?
this movie, Emily. Your 90s action movie kick, like you would love this movie.
Okay,
Face
I'll
Off
get
and
on
Broken
it.
Arrow.
Yep.
I'll get on it.
Well, this week we watched Hot Rod, starring Andy Samberg, Isla Fisher, Bill Hader, and Danny McBride, directed by Akiva Schaffer, who is one of the 3 Lonely Island members. All 3 Lonely Island members are involved in this movie.
Kind of grumpy today, dude. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Just having those dreams again. You know how it's just me in a castle. I got to fight like 1,000 wizards. The only way to beat them is to punch them as hard as I can in their faces. And then when I'm done, all their little wizard wives came out, wanted me just to have sex with them, which is kind of weird.
Emily had not seen this movie before this week, as we learned last week with Matt. So, Emily, what did you think this movie was going to be about?
Okay, so all I knew about this movie is that Andy Samberg was in it. That's all I knew about it. I did not know that it was all of the Lonely Island, so I just want to preface that. Hot Rod is the origin story of the Lonely Island. Andy and his friends love building elaborate racetracks for their off-brand Hot Wheels called Hot Rods. They have the best times together until their 4th friend gets a hot rod launched in their brain.
Okay.
Who plays the 4th friend?
I don't know.
I mean, it's
Bill
obviously
Hader or
Bill
something.
Hader with the way he got that piece of metal lodged in his head.
Right?
So, not real close this week, Emily, but you didn't have a lot.
Excuse
you didn't
me.
have a lot you knew.
I didn't have a lot I knew, but I still got a lot right.
She got the face explosion.
She did, which is a major plot point of this movie.
And elaborate racetracks. I mean, these ramps, they're not elaborate, but they're dangerous.
Yeah, I mean,
They're also not racetracks.
Fuck off, Wesley.
well, let's read the back of the DVD cover and see how close she was.
We already know I wasn't.
Rod has never landed a jump without wiping out. His family and friends think he's a joke. And to top it off, his stepfather Frank sees him as his own personal punching bag. But he's not going to let a few minor problems get him from the biggest stunt of his life. This may be the worst DVD synopsis that we've read.
Yeah, that was terrible.
I was watching when you were typing that in there because I thought I didn't put it together that you were actually typing from the DVD cover.
Yep.
And I was like about to jump in and be like, this is terrible. Did we watch the same movie?
I know this DVD synopsis makes it sound like it's like a dark comedy.
Yeah, it sounds like Frank's abusing him.
Right.
Well, isn't he?
No, I mean,
Rod is the one pursuing this.
I guess the stepfather never really initiates any fighting. It's always Rod going to him trying to fight.
I guess it's maybe emotional abuse to get his love and respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. Maybe it is darker than we thought.
Well, and then there's the part his family and friends think he's a joke. Like, his friends don't. His friends, like, idolize him in this movie.
His friends are so excited for him every time they do anything. They're like, yeah, let's do this. And then Isla Fisher comes along and is, like, so supportive. Everyone supports him, except Frank.
And that one guy in the movie theater.
You're right, yeah.
You suck.
If this was the DVD synopsis and I read it, I wouldn't watch this movie. Now, the first time I saw this movie, I summarized it a little differently for Wesley because I was watching it by myself in the apartment that we were living at the time. And I paused it about 30 minutes in and ran into Wesley's room. Wesley, can you describe what it was like for me coming in and what I said?
Yeah, I mean, I was just sitting in my room, hanging out, and heard Ben just cackling out in the living room for like a half an hour. And I'd look up every now and then and go, I wonder what he's laughing at so hard. And then 30 minutes in, we hear the movie pause. And then Ben's footsteps come trudging over to my door, opens it, and he goes, okay, listen. This movie is about a guy who has to do a stunt to raise enough money to get his stepdad heart surgery so that he can be well enough to kick his ass to earn his respect. And then I think Ben proceeded to say, I'm not finishing this until you come out here and watch it with me.
That's exactly what happened. And I sat and waited for like an hour for you and my brother to get done with what you were doing. And then we started the movie back over again and watched it together.
And all cackled like Ben?
I don't know on the first time, but I know that on many rewatches of this movie, there was at least one time where I genuinely laughed for the entire 88 minutes, like start to finish. I watch it probably at least once a month. I watched it twice this week.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we all got together and were able to watch it together last night.
Yeah.
And Emily, that was your first time watching it.
It was my first time watching it, and I actually really enjoyed it. I was teasing Wesley that I was going to tell him that I hated it, but no, it was really fun, and I think it really added to the movie just being with some good friends and giggling along with everything. And every once in a while, Wesley would like look at me to see my reaction.
Yeah, I still need to send you the Too Legit video.
Probably, yeah. I didn't understand that, but I still was laughing at it.
Well, yeah, can you explain why you laughed at that? Because Wesley turned to you in the moment and was like, if you don't know what that is referencing, like, why is that funny?
Because Andy Samberg was making gestures, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's so funny.
I mean, this movie really relies on some really absurdist humor within it.
Yes.
Some left field choices, like the part where they ring the bell and then they all try to match the pitch of the bell. It's like, it's just so random and out there. And you either think it's funny or you don't. And if you don't, there's no level of explaining why something is funny to someone else to make it funny.
No, for me, why it was so funny was that they're all just friends being dumb together, and they're totally fine with being who they are together. And that's why it was so funny that they were all just being goofballs. And fuck, I was trying to figure out the time period this was supposed to be, because it felt like it was 80s and 90s, and sometimes it was the current. I was like, I don't know what this is, but we're just having a great time doing weird shit. I don't even know how old these guys are. Now they're drinking beer. Are they supposed to be teenagers? They're living at home. I don't know. And I don't even care at this point.
Emily, you just touched on so many thoughts I've had about this movie over the years. Because it's basically set to some original music, a couple other songs, but mostly Europe is the soundtrack. This 80s rock band. It's great. It's a great soundtrack. But like, that sets the tone from the very beginning of the movie. And then their clothing, like Rod's wearing a Thrasher t-shirt with the sleeves cut out at one point. And like, there are a bunch of things that are very 80s, but then you've got a blatant disregard for it when they like have new cell phones and new cars. And it's like, was this intentional to just like throw us off? Did they not want to set it in a time frame? Or were they just like, I don't know, we'll make it kind of 80s, but we're not going to try to make it authentic.
Well, and I think that choice makes this movie very timeless. Like, because not having it set in a specific time doesn't date it. It feels like it could be now or the 80s or the 2000s when this movie came out. And I think that's one reason why this movie ages a little better than some of the other comedies we've seen in 2007.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because I was laughing my ass off the whole time. And typically with comedies, we get some really racist, homophobic, sexist shit. And I didn't get that vibe the whole time. And even Andy Samberg's line about the taco versus the grilled cheese, like he's like, that's really racist. And it just, you know, they like call each other out on shit. And I don't know, it seemed like it was more wholesome. Like I said, it's just friend groups hanging out, being goofballs, and enjoying each other's company.
Yeah, and kind of on that innocent thing, and what you were saying earlier about like how old are they supposed to be? I'm still trying to put together how logically they could be like a big situation where they are all actually like 10-year-olds, but they got into adult bodies and this is just what they choose to do. Because you're right, like they seem like children, and it would make sense other than them driving, but like hanging out in a gas station parking lot, dancing and pushing each other into cars.
I mean, it explains all of Andy Samberg's training.
We need to write that prequel.
Some of the humor that we get in this movie is also...
Did you just say humor?
What way? But no, a lot of the humor is very, very physical in nature in this movie. Right off the bat, we get that scene of him going over the ramp trying to jump. It's like a milk truck or an ice cream truck.
Yep.
And you see him just crash into that other side. The stunts in this movie, stuntmen, are brutal. Like, they actually shot this stuff.
Yeah. And
Major
I think one of the stuntmen broke a leg during that scene.
Yeah, he did when he crashed into the other side of that ramp.
Insane. And I love every time the bike is in the air, it just is like a really sad little parabola of like, it doesn't even get close to the other side of the ramp. Like, it's just comical how far away he is.
It's a bike that has pedals. That's the first time he pedals that bike. I lose it every single time because like, you're not going to make a jump on that. And the fact that he was going to try to jump 15 buses with that moped until his friends threw out the new bike. It was like, what are you thinking?
I enjoyed all of the stunts in this movie. I really did. Like, first off, they were just stupid things that they came up with. But when we get that montage of the birthday parties and Rod is going through and doing all the stupid shit, and it's not even just birthday parties. He also does like an employee retirement or happy early. I don't even remember.
Yep.
Then it's just like a group of 10-year-olds watching him get hit by a washing machine.
Yeah.
Right. And again, like every single stunt feels like you're right, 15-year-olds just doing stupid shit together. And I just enjoyed the shit out of it. I think the only one that I just didn't feel like it belonged was blowing up the tower.
It's one of the best ones.
It is one of the best ones, but it doesn't like fit with their like stupid humor. But the reason why it does eventually is because Danny McBride blows it up too early. And so like that was like their most professional one that still they didn't do a very good job of.
I would agree. The stuntmen, just kudos. But one of my favorites in this movie was when he punch dances his rage out in a wooded glen.
Yes.
And then proceeds to fall down a seemingly mountain-sized hill. And when they start ricocheting off the trees, it was so good watching this. I watched it with my mom for the first time earlier this week, and then got to be there when Emily watched it for the first time. And both of their reactions the first time watching that scene, you start off like, oh, funny, he's like going down the hill. Like, what the hell is this? And then it just keeps going, and then it's funny.
Right. I definitely said last night, I said, how long is this hill? And that was after like 10 seconds of him falling, and then he falls for another 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And the falls do continue to get like bigger and bigger. And by the time it's done, he's like barrel rolling through the air like he went off a huge jump. And it's really funny because you would think a joke that goes on that long wouldn't stay funny, but it keeps escalating it. And he's bouncing off trees. Oh, that's one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Like the floppy doll that they throw us one point.
He ragdolls.
Ragdolls, yes.
Yeah, and so I think part of what keeps it fresh for me is how they start it. That he is doing this 80s dance and drinking beer and smoking a cigarette and throwing it down and then like hopping all over these trees doing hilarious dance moves.
Was that a callback to like Footloose or something? I got major Footloose vibes.
Yep, that was the intent. Yep.
And then he starts doing this montage of jumping off of a tree log in different I don't know. I don't even know what to describe it as. Different spins in the air.
Yep.
But then out of nowhere, cut the music. And it's just Rod going, oh shit. And then he starts this like 30-second fall. So you're just like in this mindset of what is this goofy guy doing? Oh my God, this is a massive fall.
And it really is that music cutting out and him going, shit, as he's tripping over the log. That gets me every time. And that just kickstarts the laughter, which continues for 45 seconds.
I love the music in this movie, and I think that they used it. It doesn't happen too often. I tried to think of every time it did, but the way that they use that music, and exactly like you said, Ben, the way that they cut it, there's always something going on in the soundtrack and in the background. But they use music, and especially the lack of music, to emphasize when something's going to happen, and it's usually a physical stunt. But like it makes you kind of like snap to pay attention because you're going through all these rapid transitions of jokes and funny things. But then when the music drops, you're like, what? And you kind of pay more attention to what's going on the screen. And it's a really good use of that.
At the end of the movie, we were talking about like if the guy that was singing in the band at the last big stunt, if he was from Accepted, I actually looked up. They're the Queens of the Stone Age.
Really?
I know, that's the band. And I was like, holy fucking shit. No wonder it has like this weird timeless 80s feel.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Right? I was like, okay, that's super random.
Wesley, you mentioned the transitions in this movie, and that's one thing that I think this movie really does is it's edited very well. And it sometimes starts scenes with a joke immediately. And those are the jokes that I laughed at the hardest on this watch because I was noticing them more. When they cut to them filling the pool and Bill Hader's character says pools are really good for holding water. Phenomenal. When they cut to a random scene where someone's watching TV and the newscaster says the dog walked itself home, ate a pizza, and took a nap. I lost it at that one because
yes, you did.
Yeah, I laughed for maybe 20 seconds for a joke that was 1 second. And it's just so successful in the way that it keeps you laughing, even in times when in normal movies, there would be like this lull period.
To let you catch your breath, honestly.
I mean, it's 88 minutes for a reason.
It packs so much in there, though. Like, it's so dense in terms of comedy.
Would you guys have liked it if it was longer?
No.
I don't think so.
Well, I still probably would have enjoyed it, but I don't know if I would have liked it as much.
Well, and I don't think I would have because the plot of the movie is really thin. Like, it's really like this guy's trying to pull off a big stunt so that he can save his stepdad to kick his ass. Like, it's a one-line plot summary for this movie. And trying to extend that longer would have just felt more like it was a series of sketches rather than a coherent story.
That's a good point.
Maybe. I see your point, but yeah.
Because it does have a bit of that Lonely Island sketch comedy feel to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Where like a lot of these ideas are just disjointed that they're trying to then like glue together into a narrative.
And that was actually a big part of why critics like really hated it. Especially when it came out, you know, they were like, this is just Lonely Island and SNL sketches put together. And they didn't even think about like plot, or it's just really disjointed and no one really understands the humor. It's just too long. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Don't care what you think. And I was reading some of the interviews that Andy Samberg and his buddies did. And they talked about how a lot of comedies don't get reviewed well.
Yeah.
But then they are loved like a couple years later. So he talked about like The Jerk did not have critical acclaim, or Ace Ventura didn't have critical acclaim, but they became beloved very quickly after that. And so he was like, oh, we're on the right track.
This movie does, now that you say that, Emily, this movie does remind me a lot of The Jerk, which is one of my favorite comedies. I had never made that connection before until now, but the way that this movie just kind of jumps around and will tell a joke and then get out and not really call back to that joke, like that's what The Jerk did so successfully with Steve Martin. And I had never put that together until you just mentioned that. So thank you for forming that bridge in my brain.
You're welcome. One thing that I did want to bring up is that I still don't really know who Danny McBride is.
What do you mean?
What does that even mean?
So, yeah, I know, right? You're like, what the fuck, Emily? What are you talking about? So you remember when Heartbreak Kid was a thing? I'm sorry to bring it up.
Yes.
And you guys were talking about Danny McBride. I'm sitting there like, I don't fucking know what you're talking about. I'm super confused. And I still don't think I've seen anything with him in it now besides that movie and now Hot Rod. But now I get it. I get why you guys are talking about how funny he is. His delivery of his lines when he talks about like his dream with the wizards that he's punching in the face, and then the wives want to have sex with him.
Yeah.
But every time, or when he's talking about how when Andy Samberg's character is like, "Oh, we're not going to do this anymore," he's like, "What? I can't build ramps," and he freaks out about
that. I'm not build a ramp for now.
Right.
Yeah.
And he constantly has like beer in his hand, and it turns out it's like real beer. Like every single one, he's drinking beer throughout the movie, and I don't know. I think I get it now, but I also think you need to share some more movies where Danny McBride is in it. So that I was
just about to go on a rant. Eastbound and Down, which is an HBO TV show, I think is one of Danny's funniest things, but might not be for everybody. Tropic Thunder, he's amazing in.
Oh, he is in Tropic Thunder?
Yeah, he's the demolitions guy.
Okay, I feel like I've seen it before, but I don't really remember anything but Robert Downey Jr.
Well, the thing about Danny McBride, though, is that this character we get in Hot Rod is a very PG-13 version of a normal Danny McBride character.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why I liked it so much.
Danny McBride's characters are very, very vulgar and just batshit insane. And this is a toned down version of that. And I think I really like a lot of the Danny McBride stuff, but this character in particular, I think is really successful because it's so toned down for a more PG-13 audience. Like when he pops out of that bathroom and says, "Hey, shitheads, I just found these fireworks in the bathroom. Would you like to light them off with me?" Like his delivery of that and the fact that it's like, yeah, that's how a friend would talk to another friend. Like, and it's not this like over the top thing. It's just like, yeah, let's go light off those fireworks. It sounds badass.
And then they don't even light up.
Yes.
I'm going to go drop some dumpage. But to your point that he's always drinking beer, I found that really interesting on this last rewatch that I had never looked at their cups before. And it was very true to each one of their characters that Danny was drinking beer, Jorma was drinking juice out of a plastic cup, and Bill was drinking tea out of like a handmade coffee mug. Isn't brought up, isn't mentioned, isn't pointed to at all. Like, that's just good scene or character building.
This movie is directed by Akiva Schaffer, who is one of the members of Lonely Island. How much familiarity do you guys have with Lonely Island and their catalog of titles?
I mean, I know a lot of their songs and I know a lot of their YouTube videos. Dude, we played Jack Sparrow at my wedding. I don't know. I guess I don't know a lot of the history besides like the fake history with Popstar. So I don't know. Tell me more.
Popstar is great. They were really influential on SNL with kind of changing things to like Dick in a Box.
I remember that.
That whole singing as the joke. Because was Lazy Sunday, was that them?
Yeah, that was one of their first ones.
Yeah. And like it was huge. So they started doing more and more just like songs instead of, because that slot was always reserved for like Ace and Gary or other animated stuff usually. And then I'm a fan of it.
They can really be credited probably with transitioning SNL to the YouTube age, where it's now clips that can be just viewed out of context, and they're quick snippets, but they're really successful. Like the SNL digital shorts, like that was their baby, their idea that they started, and they did over 100 of them in their time at SNL, and they're so good. Like these guys know comedy, and SNL is trying to still do that with Kyle Mooney, but Kyle Mooney does not have the same talent as these guys have. Like, no offense to Kyle Mooney, but his is much more a darkish comedy, and it just doesn't vibe well with SNL, in my opinion.
I don't know a lot of the history of SNL, so I'm just going to have to take your word for it.
I agree. I think Kyle Mooney suffers from not having anyone else work with him.
Well, he had Beck Bennett, yeah. Him and Beck Bennett were part of a comedy troupe together before they even got to SNL.
Yeah, so maybe it's just the fact that Lonely Island is something special.
I think it really is, yeah.
Those three are just geniuses.
Yeah, and we get other movies from these guys or other projects. Like you get MacGruber, which is directed by Jorma, who plays Rod's stepbrother, whose name I'm forgetting right now.
Kevin.
Yep. So he directs MacGruber, which is a hilarious movie. Very underrated, in my opinion.
Is that the one you guys brought up with the weird sex scene?
It is, yeah. We are definitely going to be watching that when we tackle 2010 movies.
Can't wait.
We'll get to that one. But then they also do projects for Netflix like Bash Brothers. Have you guys seen Bash Brothers?
No.
Yes.
Okay. Bash Brothers is just a series of songs basically written and performed by two baseball players from the 80s. Like Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco, which are real baseball players. And it's just so ridiculous, but it's so funny. And then the stuff that they did for HBO with the sports stuff, 7 Days in Hell, where Andy Samberg and Kit Harington, who played Jon Snow on Game of Thrones.
Oh
they had
my
a tennis
gosh,
match
you made
together.
me watch that.
I did.
You made me watch that. It's so fucking funny.
Yes, and that, like, they have such a unique voice in terms of comedy that when I see Andy Samberg in a thing that's not Lonely Island, all I'm wanting is, no, go back and work with Keeve and Jorma. Like, stop doing these Adam Sandler movies, for fuck's sake, and give me the stuff that I really like you doing. Like, I don't need
no
That's My Boy.
Adam Sandler anyway.
That's what I was just going to say. That's My Boy was pretty good.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was great. Fantastic. Emily, watch it.
No. I'm good.
He doesn't need to get wrapped up in Adam Sandler and that group of people. He doesn't need to do Hotel Transylvania's 1 through 4.
Yeah, but getting wrapped up with Adam Sandler comes with a lot of benefits.
Well, money and vacations.
Money and vacations, exactly.
I mean, good for him, but I can't imagine that creatively that's something he finds joy in. Because he seems like such a creative guy.
Maybe that's his vacation time.
Oh, that could be. That's an interesting idea, that when he doesn't want to think and be creative, he goes and films an Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah. And then you get lots of money, and then you
can be
are
creative
on vacation.
again.
To being creative again. Yeah.
I love that.
No, that seems right.
Were there any scenes in this movie that really stood out for you? I know this is a very memorable movie. There's a lot of scenes packed into this short movie. What are some that you really, really like, Emily?
Besides the falling for 45 seconds, the riot scene is probably one of my favorite scenes, because the four guys are just walking to go to the stunt, and there are all these people that start singing. And I'm just sitting there like, the song is playing in the background at first, and then suddenly you see people actually singing the song. And the best part is that the four guys are noticing that other people are singing.
Yep.
That's why it was so funny to me. And then it suddenly turns so dark so fast with them suddenly rioting and the four guys running as fast as they can. I'm like, what the fuck happened? It was such a funny gag.
Yeah.
Started off super positive.
That's my favorite scene in the entire movie.
Really?
And I think I said that last week when Matt was here, but I love that scene because it starts off as something that's familiar to anyone who's seen a movie like this. It's like inspirational, where it's like the entire community banding behind someone. and then it keeps building and building and building. And as it builds, it gets more and more absurd until it finally explodes into this riot scene. And I love that build, and I love that it's set to that song because it just makes it so much more powerful that it's set to music. Like that song choice is perfect.
As it builds up and we're seeing this crowd, they cut the camera to a guy running through the crowd with a trash can. And at that point, you're like, oh, this is about to change.
Yeah.
And then he throws it through a window and steals a wicker basket, which I found very funny. But also, it was another example of when the music cuts out that I think emphasized the scene so much better, because as soon as that trash can hits that storefront window, that inspirational song just stops. And then it's just screaming from the crowd as they all start to riot and crowbar car windows and throw Molotov cocktails into cars.
And then there's Danny McBride with a TV.
Yes. And that intentional continuity error, I love that use too, where he's running and he clearly doesn't have a TV. And then all of a sudden they cut to him and he has a TV. Like, I love that.
There's just nothing you can do. You just got to run and hope nobody gets hurt.
Other favorite scenes, Wesley?
We've talked about everything I had written down already.
Okay.
For all of this. Are we doing favorite scenes or are we doing the stood out?
You can do
Stood
either.
out.
Yeah.
Okay, then I don't have any.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm glad we made that distinction then.
I know that this kind of was one that stood out for good and bad reasons for a lot of critics and for a lot of audience viewers when this movie first came out. But the Cool Beans scene. So I don't remember the name of the director. His name is Keeve?
Yeah, Keeve.
Okay, so he apparently wanted to cut the scene, and Andy and I can't remember his other,
Jorma, yep.
They decided to re-edit it the way that it was and just slide it in. And Keeve's like, okay. And so they put it in the test screening, and some people just like absolutely loved it, and some people like absolutely hated it, so they kept it because they had such strong feelings about it.
Yeah.
And when it was happening, I love that not only do they have it in there, and it's so obscure and strange and bizarre, they don't even acknowledge that it happened. And so you're sitting there going, what the fuck just happened? I literally have no idea. And I think that's what excels and makes this movie so fun to me, is like everything they do. It's not that they take themselves seriously. It's the complete opposite. And they just expect the audience to come along with them.
Yeah, and it kind of smacks against typical movie making that's done. Like it's much more that, especially that Cool Beans, a YouTube clip. That's how they would edit a YouTube clip to be funny. And I love that started integrating its way into modern movie making, because we understand as audience members, like, we're watching a movie, like we can handle bad edits like that in the name of comedy. And I think they understand comedy enough to be able to give that to us. Another scene that I really like in this movie is the final battle between Andy and his dad or stepdad, Frank. Because again, that's another one that just builds and builds. And you keep thinking like, okay, it's going to end now. And it doesn't. It, like, all of a sudden they crash through a fence. It's just constant. And then he throws the ninja star at him. And I love that part.
Just expecting him to be like, nope, you people don't fight fair. You just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Everything about this movie just had something for everyone, in my opinion. I think that maybe not everyone would like the full editing of how jam-packed everything is, but it was so fucking funny all the way through. And another aspect that I really liked about this movie was Isla Fisher's character, and how she wasn't stupid. She wasn't like incompetent in any way. She was a part of the team right away, and they all acknowledged that, and they were all okay with that. And on top of it, like, there was no objectifying of her whatsoever. Mm-hmm. You know, like, everything about that was really wholesome and sweet. And I felt like that's how this movie was. Oh, shit. You know what I just remembered? Richardson.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say next, because when you were talking about not everything's for everybody, the one thing in this movie that I don't like is Richardson.
Really?
I don't like Richardson. I don't see his point.
I think that's the point.
I think Richardson has a pretty decent arc in this movie as an outsider who then gets accepted into the group at the very end. Like when Andy Samberg is like looking at people in the crowd at the very end after the jump, like he calls out Richardson. Like, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I know that the constant humping like is really silly, but I don't know. That for some reason I like his character, and I think that actor is really endearing. Like, even though he's just standing there humping the air, like I like that guy.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. It does. It
makes sense that Ben likes him.
No. Well, yes, but as much as we've been saying about how random and weird this movie is and just does whatever it wants, that's exactly why Richardson does work in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just still don't like it.
Okay.
I guess the other thing that I didn't like about this movie is that there is no way that $5,000 was going to cover Rod from throwing the projector out the window into the car.
Yeah, that projector's
projectors.
$10,000 to $15,000.
Maybe it was the 80s.
That could be. What'd you guys think of Will Arnett in this movie?
Babe!
What if I pick up a box of dong bags and we knock boots later?
That's not the first time you've said that line, is it, Wesley?
No, I said it before him in this movie.
Yeah, they stole that from you.
I think his character was perfectly fine. It was definitely a few jokes here and there that I enjoyed. I don't know if he was needed, though. I know the plot is so thin anyway, but like, I don't know if he was needed. I think it was perfectly fine to have him in there, but I don't know if I would have, if it added enough for me to be like, yeah, he was necessary to the plot.
You take him out, though, there's no villain at all in the movie.
That's okay. The villain is Frank. Frank's the villain.
My favorite shot of the entire movie is him flying over the buses, and they're cutting to him and he's giving the thumbs up, and all of a sudden they cut back and it's a wider shot and he's not even close to where the bike is. Like, I love that shot. It's so fake and it's so clearly CGI, but I love it so much. Are there any favorite lines or things we haven't talked about yet before we wrap this up?
We said them all pretty much already. Pools are perfect for holding water, man. That's probably my favorite line. But then at the end, when Isla and Rod finally do kiss, and they cut back to the team, and Bill Hader goes, "Why is Rod kissing a sister?" He's like, "Oh, that's not a sister." And he says, "Oh man, that shatters my entire universe."
Yes. There's another Bill Hader line that I'm going to start using from now on. But when Andy Samberg asks him what happened when he's got the piece of metal in his eye, and he goes, "Oh, it was totally serendipitous."
Yes, that was the line I was thinking of. It was totally serendipitous. And that story is a true story, but not for him, but for his friend.
Really?
Yeah, Bill Hader basically assumes the role of Rod and picks up his friend who was on acid and had a piece of metal in his eye like that.
Until I spent a long time in the hospital, I used to always make the joke when I walked in and point at a trash can and look around me and say, "Hospital?" Nobody ever laughed.
Nobody ever laughed?
Well, I didn't go to the hospital all that often.
I'm sure on the 70th time in the last several months, your parents would have laughed.
I didn't leave the hospital.
Oh, I suppose.
Just point at the trash cans in your room if you're ever back.
Well, now that my mom's seen it,
yeah,
that would have been hilarious if she did that to my dad every time. Hospital? And he's like, "I still don't get it."
Fuck, this movie, just so funny. And even just like talking about it, I can't stop laughing at every little thing. Ugh, it was a great time. Thank you guys for making me watch it with you.
Absolutely. And let's do final reviews. Like, what are your final thoughts on Hot Rod? Wrap it up for us, Wesley.
Cool beans.
Perfect. Emily?
Cool beans.
Yeah. Cool beans.
Hell yeah.
Beans. Cool beans.
Cool.
Beans.
Cool.
Okay. Emily, you got some Twits Lite for us today?
Did you have a review, Ben?
Yeah, he added to our cool beans.
Oh, all right.
I mean, I don't think there's much to add for this movie. Like, it's just fun, and you either get it or you don't. So give it a shot, and if you don't like it, that's completely understandable. And if you do like it, like, great.
Join us.
Yeah, join us.
One of us.
So we have some Twits Lite. Just say the answer to the question right away, just to make ourselves giggle. We talked about this last night. There's an end credit scene at the end where Rod is bowing to his moped, and we were semi-disappointed.
Yeah.
Even though it is weirdly fitting. So what should have been the end credit scene?
So I thought that the end credits scene should have been Will Arnett still standing by his car even after the time jump of 6 months, where he's got a beard now and he's still shouting "babe" at Isla Fish's character as she's leaving. I thought that would have been a good end credits scene.
Well, now I'm kind of thinking about it, and I think it would have been appropriate for Richardson to interrupt the end of the credits.
Yes.
So not even a post credit, but have him pop up like he does on Jorma's or Kevin's, and just in the credits scene, just humping all the names.
Yes. I love that so much.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay. So it's your kid's birthday or your birthday. I don't care. You hire Rod to do which stunt?
Oh, I want that explosion.
Yeah.
I'd like him to drink a can of soda after he's eaten a bunch of Pop Rocks. Like, that's the stunt I want to see. I want to see him. Or Wesley, do you remember when we were at that music festival and I shotgunned a warm
That's
Diet
what
Pepsi?
I was just going to say. Yeah.
Oh.
And it got down to my stomach and then immediately started foaming and came up. And I turned into like a foam dispenser, and I just opened my mouth and it all just shot out.
It was a sight to see.
Oh my God. That's disgusting.
Oh my God. I forgot about that until just now. That's amazing.
You're welcome. I connected the jerk to this movie and connected some other former memories.
Perfect.
For you. Okay. Last one. So we know Richardson was trying to join the team.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you convince them to join the team? What are your skills?
I'm a photographer, baby. Get you that press.
I think I'm an idea man. I think that I help come up with the stunts for Andy Samberg's character, for Rod. I think we just sit down and we brainstorm shit to get like the best stunt possible.
Okay.
And that actually, Emily, leads well into my next game.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
We've all done some stupid shit in our lives. So I'm going to give you, Emily, something stupid, and you need to tell me if it's something I have done.
Oh my God.
We're calling this game Hot Ben. So, Wesley, the reason you're not playing is because you were around for a lot of these, I think, so you know the answer. But Emily, 60 seconds on the clock. I'm going to describe a thing. You tell me if it's something I've done or if it's not something I've done.
Okay.
And away we go. Punched a hole in a wooden door and then tried to hide it with a "do not enter" sign.
Yes.
Yes,
You've done
that is something I've done. Played home run derby style baseball with Christmas lights instead of a ball.
Yes.
Yes, I have done that. Stuck a friend's toothbrush up my butt and laughed as he used it that evening.
No, you definitely didn't do that.
Ruptured a friend's testicle after testing their knowledge on the capital of Thailand.
How does one even do that? I'm going to say yes. You did do that.
I have not. Wesley, what's the capital of Thailand?
Bangkok.
Thank you. Done a backflip off of a speeding jet ski.
Yeah, you've done that.
I have done that. Biked down a hill with a rope tied around me, and the other end was tied to a tree.
No, you haven't done
that. I have done that.
Oh my God.
Upper decorated a toilet with a number 2.
What's an upper decker?
That's where you take the lid off the toilet tank and poop in it or pee in it.
Yeah, you've done that.
I have not done that. No, that's gross.
Damn it.
Skip school to play a board game that they let us play in school.
Yeah, you've definitely done that.
Absolutely have done that. Chewed on a cigarette butt at a bowling alley to scare a child with a staring problem.
Yes.
Yes, I have.
You've done that.
Well done, Emily. You seem to know my life experiences very well.
Okay, so Wesley, which ones were you there for? All of them?
The cigarette one was the only one that I remember for sure.
Okay. Yeah, the other ones might have been even before I had met you.
Probably.
Yeah.
Those were pretty dumb.
Yes, they were.
Really, really stupid. I'm sorry. You were on a bike attached to a tree?
I was in middle school and high school when Jackass came out, so
oh my
stupid
God, you're
stunts
so
like
fucking stupid.
Which this movie probably owes a lot to Jackass, I think, because this idea of stunts like was really popularized by Jackass around this time. So I think it owes a little bit to that idea, because I don't know if they would have come up with the stuntman idea without that. But Wesley, Emily, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, we had a good time, I think.
Yeah.
I certainly did.
It was fun being back.
Yeah. And thank you to everyone listening. Please subscribe, rate, share us with a friend or two. And you can check us out online at IDYP_podcast on Twitter and Instagram. And email us at idrinkyourpodcast@gmail.com. And next week...
Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't do a he's back joke.
It's not too late.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it in now.
Yeah. Next week, we are watching Sweeney Todd.
Ooh.
Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
Should be
All
fun
I can think
one.
about is The Office.
You know, that's probably a lot of people's only connection to Sweeney Todd, if you think
Possibly.
about it. Yeah. But it's a musical next week, and we're excited to talk about that. So please check us out next week, and we will be back then. So have a good week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.